Hello and welcome to The Studio Demands It, an exercise in creative thinking where we will challenge ourselves to conceptualize, pitch, and craft a film or series based on the demands and stipulations from one of you listeners acting as a hypothetical Hollywood overlord. We talk movies all the time.
All the time.
Ooh, there you go.
Oh, you pointed at him though.
I was prepping for it. Like I was really ready for it. You just
gotta be
stepped
quick on the uptake.
I
there.
missed it the other times. That this time I was like, I'm gonna
I was
get
like
it.
ready to build anticipation. I was ready to perform. Just,
David got it there. But as professional screenwriters ourselves and avid cinephiles, we would like to believe we can meet the demands thrown at us. We will be your screenwriters for this episode. I am TC Witt, and joining me on this episode is, well, it's not Jim. It's David AZP Geisler for our annual crossover. David, hello, welcome back.
I'm so happy to be back. We did this. It was just a little. We had like our schedules lined up 2-3 years ago.
Yep.
Aligned, and we were able to do a crossover. And then a year later, we were like, let's do it again because I think you were in town just to direct a film or direct a commercial or something. Mm-hmm. We said, let's do it again. And then you reached out to me a few months ago and said, I think this is an annual thing.
This is an annual thing, yeah. So
I loved it.
As is tradition. But we're breaking from tradition. We're adding possibly a new variable here. But we are also joined by a fellow 6'5"er.
There we go.
Dan the Fixer McCoy.
I'm down for it. I'm down for it. Hello, everyone. Thanks for having me on. I'm very excited.
Dan, welcome. There's a new voice to The Studio Demands It, but not a new voice to 6'5", as you've guessed it on AZP a few times.
Yeah, exactly.
I sprinkle myself a little bit of everywhere, you know.
But now you've got your own show.
Yes.
Right. So why don't you do a quick little plug of that?
So me and my friend Matt, we're going to do a new show called Fan Fiction, where we take different outlets of nerd-based media. Half the show is celebrating, talking, kind of like what we like, what we don't like. The second half is the elevate part, where we really say what we're looking for in the next one, what we think could change to make this previous one better. And we just kind of goof around, have a good time, and we hope you guys enjoy what we got for you.
And a little behind the curtain, I think as of this, we're recording this now, but when people are hearing this, I think you'll have 4 or 5 episodes.
We should be officially underway.
Yeah,
so people can find you.
Yeah, jump on over.
They can probably find it on the bottom of the Studio Demands It website with a little icon.
The water's warm. Come on in.
Yeah. Well, David,
why is it warm, Dan?
Let's not go that far.
Okay. I'm so sorry.
Those are the questions you don't ask.
We're
just
taking over his show.
enjoy the warm water.
No, it's all right. Well, David said you pitched you being on the show because there is some crossover. There's some similarity in what Jim and I do, which is essentially fan fiction. Because our nerd sensibilities of like, this isn't what I would have done with the Suicide Squad. No, more specifically, Suicide Squad. I wouldn't have done anything differently than what James Gunn did.
James Gunn was great.
So it's cool to have you on. And
and I'm a big fan of the show too.
So
just being on here, like I cannot express how excited I am.
Oh my gosh,
to be on here and just really do the think exercises that you guys do for this kind of stuff.
Well, I hope not to let you down, but
I hope not to let you down.
It can be a little scary. I've done this twice now on Studio Demands It, and those first 10 or 15 minutes, I don't know if I've ever said this, but you're just like, I'm washed with fear. Because you don't know, you got like,
good old,
how do we get things rolling? But TC's so good at that.
David Flop Sweat Geisler over here.
Nickname.
Hey, Herman's licking my book. Don't let that happen. Hey.
What are you doing here? Herman, the AZ pup is here and
he's joining us on the couch.
Here. So you're familiar with the show. What we have here is a demand. Now, here's a fun little thing. I'll do the little intro about the demands. You listeners have given us demands from studios literally all over the world. I showed David the spreadsheet. He sees how many we have at this point. And these demands have been submitted at studiodemandsit.com, where if you scroll to the bottom, you can find these two fellas' shows as well. You can get us at Twitter at Studio Demands It, and you can send any demand you like, and we will have to make something up right here on the spot with basically no preparation. So thanks to everyone who has submitted, and keep them coming. And today's demand, I don't know what it is. This is the first time. Nope, this happened once in season 1 when Jim did Cannonball Run on me.
That was like episode 3 or something.
Yeah, that was like a third episode. Like, because initially it was going to be, we'll just trade back and forth who sets up the demand. But taking on more host-like duties, it was easier for me to I'll just select from our listeners and throw it at Jim. So the joke I always give with Jim is of everyone involved, even the listeners, he's the one who has the least information.
Because the listeners at least saw the title before they listen. Oh my gosh.
Unless there's some random person, as we joke, who just decided, I'm going to blindly click on a podcast.
I'm going to push play, then skip forward 15 seconds.
And that's how I listen to all my podcasts.
There you go. Yeah. I don't even want to know what this is.
I'm really anti-introduction. Let's just get to the meat potatoes,
Actually, one of my friends won't listen to my podcast, any podcast, because they don't like that the first 10 minutes of every podcast is nothing to do with what the episode is.
Fair.
Well, I do recommend to a lot of the 6.5 shows is at least get your topic in there in the first 2 minutes and like try to start talking about it in the first 5.
Well, I've given the conceit every time of what this show is, and then it's a matter of like, well, let's get to the demand. So I don't know it. I know it's Zelda related since
there's a twist. There's a twist today.
So the twist on this today, as I said, I don't know what the demand is. David, why don't you introduce the demand for us?
Sure thing. I'll set this up a little bit. Yeah, I have the demand. It's such an honor to have the demand on a Studio Demands It episode. When we were kind of TC, when you and I were spitballing what this episode would be, because the first time we did it, we basically pitched a Zelda film.
Yeah, season 1 was a Zelda film. Season 2 was Zelda 3000.
We ended up pitching a Zelda video game. So it was a little bit of a lane change for Studio Demands It, but it was still the exact same creative process of trying to put a narrative together and all that. And we were like, what do we do for the third time
season
of getting together, I guess.
Our third season.
And also then Dan.
You thought just like Dan.
That's what we got to get Dan in here.
Get this guy.
But because all three of us were together, then I think, TC, didn't you ask me like, well, should I have the demand or something else? And I actually think it was your idea what we ended up doing.
I pitched it at you just to try to always keep this fresh and always trying to, I don't want to like retread the same ground here. I had a couple Zelda / video game demands that we could have played in, but I thought because some of your wonderful listeners have come over to join us at Studio Demands It, I thought surely your AZP magical people might have a demand for us. So you threw it out there to them.
So yeah, we basically said, well, let's put it, instead of the Studio Demands It audience submitting a demand, let's see if the AZP audience can submit a demand. So I put a tweet out there a few days ago.
I'm so excited right now.
I don't
it's
know.
like my favorite part. It's like, let's go.
And it's not a matter of like, we've already done a film, let's do a video game, like now let's do a book or something. It's not that. We're probably going to be pitching a film today. I'm just going to let you guys know. Okay. Unless we do like a hard pivot. But this is a tweet that I put out on Another Zelda Pod over on Twitter. And it was a few days ago. And I said, I'll read the tweet first. Hello, everyone. This weekend, we're going to record with the Studio Demands It crossover episode with TC. In season 1, we pitched a Zelda film. Season 2, we pitched Zelda 3000. This time around, let's surprise TC with a demand. What Zelda-related requests might you have? That's what I tweeted out. We got a ton of people replying. I'm going to do a few honorable mentions and then do the one we're really going to do.
Let's build up to it.
But with that said, I've given both of you Zelda encyclopedias.
Yes.
Because some of this I have in my head, but I promise you the demand today. So right now, both TC and Dan are looking down at a particular page in the Zelda encyclopedia that literally shows every Zelda game ever made right there. So just for quick reference. This is so you guys can pull from what you need. You're welcome to page around in the books, but like even just this page alone will be helpful today.
And this is great that you're reading the honorable mentions, because as we've done in the past with some of these episodes, if we have similar demands, like for the Matrix, we had 3 people who had sent in Matrix demands. We keyed in on 2 of them, but we wanted to acknowledge some of the other demands that might have come in similarly, because the fun of this is that you listeners are giving us what to do. So to be like, oh, we're going to do Terminator, and to have somebody like, oh, I sent a Terminator demand and I wish they would have used mine.
Sure.
So this is a nice way to acknowledge, like, we hear you, we see you. Here we go.
We had a lot of great tweets. I didn't pick the one that I thought was the best. I picked the one that I thought would work the best for the 3 of us getting together based on who knows what about Zelda games and what our skill sets are. Cool?
Yeah.
So there was a lot of great ideas in here.
Some of our listeners might, Zelda is the little guy in the green outfit with the yellow hair who has the sword.
Nailed it.
Yeah, okay, good. I just wanted to be sure that I'm kidding. Burn it. Shut this episode off right now.
All right, here we go. So Shane Kelly over at Still Saying Shane on Twitter tweeted his pitch was, also my AZP listeners, I think I didn't really make it clear about, how on Studio Demands that people have a lot of fun like submitting their own studio name.
Sure.
We didn't get any of that here.
That's okay.
All right, cool.
What was his name again?
This is Shane Kelly
at
Still Saying Shane.
So Still Saying Shane Studios.
Okay, let's do that. He's actually one of our blog writers. over on EZP. He said what his pitch was, what happened to Link, Zelda, Impa, and Ganondorf in the 7 years between child and adult timelines in Ocarina of Time? How did Link get his ears pierced?
Oh.
All right, fair enough. David Wayne.
I want that to be that's the entire movie. Like, how did he get those earrings? Like, that's fantastic.
David Wayne Nystrom over here at Dave Wayne 09 Studios said, part of me wants to, oh yes, Dave. Oh,
we'll say Nice Dave Studios.
Nice Dave Studios.
Yeah.
Part of me wants to pitch my own story. And actually, David Wayne Nystrom is doing his own Zelda fan fiction. He has his own website going for it and everything.
Oh, amazing.
The Twitter handle is at Zelda TEWAH. But that seems too on brand for me. Ha ha ha. If not, make a new season for the animated series. Same animation, same style, but some continuity between them. Now, honestly, it's kind of funny because we just finished doing our animated TV show thing for AZP last night. The three of us sat and talked about it. And you accidentally kind of did that a little bit, TC. You said, like, what if this was in the animation style of Teen Titans or something?
Teen Titans Go, specifically that chibi style, American style Japanese manga animation that I think the show would be more palpable if it was ridiculously animated, if it had much more, like, way more cutesy cartoonish style.
If the animation was in on the humor as well.
Yes,
gotcha.
Then,
so his
then,
request
then
is,
it would make more sense.
His request is make it canon, basically have the next season be canon based on everything that happened in the first season.
Well, I'll tell you what happens in episode 1. He gets his ear pierced.
We're satisfying all the studios today. Mike Westfall at Fall West Mike Studios said, make a wordless silent film. Fair enough. Ryan Kuhn over here from Brothers-in-Law, actually.
Hey, all right. Love Brothers-in-Law.
He tweeted, not that I'm biased, but MJ Kuhn Books, his wife, Mallory, had a great idea in her blog about the story leading up to Breath of the Wild as a no Link character. So I remember this pitch. Mallory wrote a blog about basically Zelda's story between the 100 years where Link fails in the beginning of Breath of the Wild and then is, I guess, not resurrected, but woken back up.
Returned,
Alex in a Box, who is at Alex_in-a-box. Very good screen name there. They said, Majora's Mask is, in my opinion, impossible to portray as perfectly in any other medium than a video game. How would you adapt Majora's Mask to a TV show and have it be just as good? That's a close call.
That's a good one.
That's
a good one.
That one tickles my fancy.
Yes, I think you could do some kind of Netflix style show where there's 12 episodes and maybe they are all the same day. A little bit of what Arrested Development did in season 4, but maybe done a different way.
More specifically, something like Russian Doll, which is a Groundhog's Day.
Groundhog's Day kind of thing. Absolutely.
Yeah, so I thought that was a great one, but I also felt that the three of us would need to have intimate knowledge of every single character in Majora's Mask.
Yeah.
And so I felt,
you don't?
I love that. I have general knowledge, and I know that and I mean this respectfully, you guys probably even have a little less knowledge about every single NPC in Majora's Mask. So it would take weeks of us researching to make sure we did service to that one, but I loved that one. Quasmar at Marcus W. Brown 1 said, would love to see a story beginning in a world exactly like ours and then involving time travel, either backwards or forwards. Okay, fair enough. And then this is, here we go. Here's one. Kimberly Groom at Ruby7 Tuesday said, how did Link get the Master Sword in Breath of the Wild originally? How did they know he was the hero? Okay, fair enough. That's interesting. And then lastly, Christian Hayden here over at HLXANTHUS said, an anti-hero spin on Ganondorf where he is forced into the hero role. Think Venom in the Zelda-verse. And actually, I retweeted and I said, well, you might be interested in our Zelda 3000 episode.
100%. Take a listen. If you like the idea of Ganon somehow being the hero in some twisted way, not exactly Ganon himself, but absolutely listen to Zelda 3000 because the conceptualization of that was that Link is resurrected and becomes the hero, has the Triforce of courage on him, and it's
basically the premise is that
Gerudo.
Link is Gerudo. We say, what if a Gerudo was the hero of time?
Hence the red hair.
Yes. You're gonna like that episode. You're gonna like that episode, Dan.
Got it.
We really came up with. I'm proud of the ideas we came up with. But here's what we're going with, guys.
Okay, so thank you for all those. Thank you for all those demands. Those are great. Like some fun ideas in there at the very least.
This is why you guys need the books in front of you.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't say it just because you put the book down, TC. Yeah. Now I understand.
Pick it back up.
I've played almost every Zelda game. I understand that the two of you haven't, but the two of you have other skill sets that I think will inform. You'll understand why I picked this. Okay. Here we go. Brian Gellerson at SKOLKID 90 says, in the spirit of multiverses,
Okay.
create a story that brings together other versions of Link from the Zelda timeline, but use Breath of the Wild Link as the main protagonist, only because many theories suggest Breath of the Wild is a convergence point. So
okay,
what we're going to have to do today,
enter the Zelda-verse.
We have to make a film that will canonically and accurately somehow bring together all these other Zelda stories. And I also want to say one other thing. I know both of you have intimate knowledge of the MCU and the DCEU and all that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So how do we build a multiverse? I don't mind taking care of the details of the specific games, but secondly, it's a slightly controversial thought, but a lot of people feel that Breath of the Wild at this point in Zelda canon is the only real experience, and every other Zelda game is actually just a story that was told in the Breath of the Wild universe.
Okay.
In other words, so if you guys switch over to your timeline page here real quick.
Yeah, throw it at me.
What is that? Page 10 there?
Yep.
That's the Nintendo version of the timeline, but somehow, but they don't necessarily exist. There's 3 different timelines that exist in 3 different times. I don't think it's a time travel movie. I don't think we're making a time travel movie. I don't know what we're making, but we have to start with Breath of the Wild Link and find a way to. Now, Breath of the Wild itself has references to all these games. We have characters, we have towns, we have villages, we have hilltops that are named after all these characters from the other games.
Interesting. Okay.
I think it's a film. I'll read it one more time. In the spirit of the multiverse, create a story that brings together other versions of Link from the Zelda timeline, but use Breath of the Wild Link as the main protagonist. I don't think that this is a Smash Brothers scenario. I don't think this is a Mario Kart scenario. I don't think this is a, screw canon, let's just get them all together. I think we can do this in universe with in-universe logic.
I think so too.
Okay.
Particularly because it's a world that already has magic as an option.
Which is
so
very,
that's
very,
a real
very
quick,
nice. Yeah.
quick hand wave. And I don't want to just hand wave things. But I do want to throw this in real quick. I actually have a demand from Mark B. From Green Red Green Studios.
Follow-up demand.
Yep. And this actually works into this. Into the Spider-Verse is a damn fine movie that brings in a variety of alternate versions of Spider-Man. We demand that you find some other character or property or even actor that would thrive in a verse. Sure, a Nick Cage verse is an obvious choice, but what about an Arnold or a Charlize? What about Super Pets?
There we go.
Have fun and make that verse money. So interestingly enough, that comes from Mark B. Submitted at studiodemands.com. That works perfectly into this. We are
I love it.
We are selecting Zelda.
I think multiverse is hot right now because of coming off of No Way Home and just all the verses.
And the Flash coming up as well.
Yep.
DC
So
representative.
I'm totally fine with that. We're doing the verse thing.
Yeah.
But how do you do it in Zelda? So here's my starting point.
Sure.
We have to answer why this is even happening.
Mhm.
That might be a little bit more on you guys. I don't know the why. But I do know.
I have ideas.
All right. Sounds good.
Who we're going to use. Like out of all the Zeldas, we can't have them all. We have to choose which ones.
Or we do have them all, or we have
links.
to justify.
Yeah, like which links from which games, you know?
comes through.
Excuse me,
Oh,
princess.
No, of course.
Now, this is what we need to talk about.
Uh-huh.
One way to interpret this is that the timeline is a timeline and it's real, and we're pulling people through sling rings just like Spider-Man or whatever.
Mhm.
I posit that we should consider that all the previous Zelda games didn't actually exist in reality, and they're just tales told. So maybe we could twist, instead of just doing dimensional teleport things, maybe somehow these characters come into existence via fantasy or lore.
Yep.
See where I'm going with this? Maybe that's how we can pull them all together.
Well, I'm going to jump right in right here.
Let's do it.
And one of the an access point for how we do this is the threat first.
Okay.
If we could figure out what the threat is, that would require multiple links to come into the equation here, much like No Way Home did, which was like Peter broke open the multiverse with Doctor Strange and villains started seeping through and what have you. I would suggest, first thing off the top of my head is that we create some new villain that is meddling with reality, right? That is someone who's like trying to do what Ganondorf could never do. Like Ganon isn't the villain in every one of these games, correct?
He is not.
Correct.
Mm-mm.
So
Maybe a third of the time.
maybe okay. So coming up with some sort of villain that is trying to rewrite reality, and in doing so, the need of This would be a fun way of, I guess, to borrow from No Way Home. Pick your favorite monsters and creatures and villains over the whole of all of these, or pick your favorite artifacts. Which I know David could easily. You've done episodes about what are the best weapons, what are the best artifacts, and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And by having someone trying to collect like all the master swords. And then if all the master swords are coming together to create some ultimate master sword weapon that they can wield as an impossible warlord who's leading armies of creatures with this impossible to beat sword, then you have all these characters throughout the course of timeline, multiverse, what have you, or fiction that do not have their swords anymore. So then you have a team. If you want to go classic Final Fantasy style, then you get 3 that you have your one leader character with 2 supporters.
There's a couple Zelda games where there are 4 links.
Great.
He gets split up into 4 characters, the 4 swords and a few others.
Is Minish Cap in there? Or
Minish Cap references some of the 4 sword stuff.
Okay.
But there isn't 4 links running around. I wanna put a couple pins on the board here.
Okay.
Sure. I didn't want to interrupt you, TC, because I totally feel where you're going with it.
Just brainstorming.
Totally brainstorming. And we would have to replace the sword with something else because in canon, the Master Sword has been the same sword through all the stories.
Okay, great.
And I'm going to call them stories in this episode. I'm not going to call them in the timeline. I think I'm going to go this. I'm choosing to subscribe to the idea that actually none of these other things really existed in reality.
What's the canon story?
Yeah. Or maybe a version of them happened, but like.
So Breath of the Wild is the only canon story. Like,
so just to make sure I'm on the same page.
Please, yeah.
So like, let's say Wind Waker Link, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're saying that is just a story. In the Breath of the Wild universe.
That's what
So it's like a fairy tale told about.
I'm steering us in that direction.
Okay, I just want to make sure
go
we're
the
on
other
the
direction where we go, no, it's a timeline. It's Back to the Future, dang it, and all these things are connected, and there it is.
No, for the sake of honoring the existing lore, what people love, what people hate, right? That if we choose, just the Breath of the Wild is the universe we're playing in, and the idea that all these other myths and legends that have been created around the Triforce, the villain, the princess, the hero, and whatnot. I like that.
It's called the Legend of Zelda. So
Yeah.
we're dealing with legends, stories that might have been twisted and distorted. There might have been a Link in the Wind Waker game that did exist and maybe did fight some of these battles. It could be canonically accurate, but the story, the game that we as humans on Earth played, could be the embellished legend of that journey. You know what I mean? Some of this stuff could be based on truth inside the Breath of the Wild universe, but essentially all of those stories, there are times where the Link is the same Link from game to game. Ocarina of Majora's Mask is the most famous example. But that's just more stories of that character, right?
Yeah.
It's like we're just reading books of these characters.
So it's like more like the character can exist and maybe the name Link is just a title that they slap on him to make him the hero of that story.
That is kind of how it works.
So we have a whole bunch of people, we have a whole bunch of great stories, and they're like, oh, well, seeming he did these great things, he's Link.
So so one thing is like in these stories, the Master Sword is always the same item. And in these stories, the Hylian shield is always the same shield. There are other shields, there are other swords.
Right.
But here's where we get a little bit of the multiverse stuff is the links are, for the sake of the conversation, the links are different.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's not the same human, or it's not the same character going through.
If in some capacity we're trying to recruit links, right? And like seeking out, you used Wind Waker earlier. So like, there's this famous sailor Link or what have you, and finding a village of boat people and there's some older gentleman character who is the person who the legends of Link in Wind Waker were ascribed to. Like, you're Link. No, I'm not actually him. I just, when I was a child, had that adventure.
Yeah.
You're mistaking me for the Legend of Zelda.
No one's called me the Link in years, or some line like that.
And like, hey, well, dust off your skills. We need you for this battle.
All right. As we record this, Breath of the Wild, the sequel to Breath of the Wild hasn't come out yet. There's been a few trailers, and there is something I want to note about Breath of the Wild that I think might give us something to work with here.
Sure.
We've all played Breath of the Wild quite a bit. We've all run around the lands. And I don't know if you guys know the name of this group, but have you ever seen some of the really weird, like really ancient ruins that are just around Breath of the Wild?
Sure.
Strange dragon heads, not the dragons that fly, but like I think they're called the Zonai tribe or something like that. There's a culture that's thousands of years old in Breath of the Wild that we only see the ruins of when we're running around in Breath of the Wild.
Okay.
The reason I'm putting the timestamp on this episode is because a lot of people think that the sequel to Breath of the Wild is going to deal with that even more ancient culture.
Okay.
But for now, what if we can use that culture? We can kind of invent whatever we want with that ancient culture, the Zonai.
Yep.
They predate the Sheikah, which are the kind of the good guys, the monks in Zelda. They predate the Yiga clan, which is the spin-off, the Siths, basically. And they are ancient. So maybe somehow this civilization was the keeper of the stories. See where I'm going with this? We can go one deeper, and that's where. So our Breath of the Wild link is exploring the Zonai stuff, catacombs for reasons.
Yeah,
and that's what triggers or either triggers our baddie or somehow in this deep lore of the Zonai, that's how we can bring some of these other characters that are recorded, maybe literally on the stone of a lot of these statues, because there is writing on these statues and inside. Somehow that brings them to fruition.
Okay, let's do. I'm going to throw a prologue out here. Having some sort of equivalent of an archaeologist, some sort of anthropologist, seeker of
Let's make it Zelda.
Okay,
let's make it be Zelda because she was getting all sciencey with the guardians and everything.
Okay,
so she's exploring deeper.
Well, let me make this suggestion, and maybe you'll want to maybe
I
we should
apologize.
make it Zelda. That's okay. Is that seeking out the Zonai and finding a temple, like the oldest, like the Library of Alexandria.
Yep.
Right, where all the information of like our world, the Library of Alexandria is one of the greatest losses to human history, because the whole of human knowledge was in Alexandria and it was burned to the ground, and centuries of information was lost forever. In some literary and historical aspects, we've truly never recovered from that loss as a human race. And finding some sort of equivalent of the Library of Alexandria, seeking out the legends, and finding truth in, this is why I want it to be I'm suggesting this is the villain origin, finding out that it was all just fabricated tales, that none of it was true, that the legend is strictly that, a legend, and having a flash of anger of like, it's not fair. My whole life has been devoted to finding the truth in our history, and you're telling me now it's all just stories? No, it can't just be stories. It has to be real.
Okay.
And then insert magic here of manifesting the reality of these legends, bringing the legends into reality.
I like a character going to, I'll call it the library.
Yeah.
I like a character going to the library, the ancient library.
So do we just discover the library, or why are we looking for something?
Literally what I was going to ask.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but
please, you're right on the right beat here. Why does our character go there? Is
why
it
are they
because
so
the
upset,
baddie shows up and they have to go?
No, the villain has not even been created yet.
Interesting.
I'm saying this is the origin of the villain.
Okay.
That this person seeking out the library discovers it. I will have all the history of our land. I'll be able to finally prove all these legends I love as truth, only to discover that they are not true. And that anger and disappointment is, no, these legends must be true. I will make them true. I will make every Link and every Ganon and every villain and every story that's ever existed that I've believed in reality. And then a fracturing of fiction into reality.
I think I see. So then, I think I like where this is going.
What's the power source that they use then? Because then now we have to have, how do they all of a sudden have the power to make this into?
I think I might have our
MacGuffin.
Big bad.
Not the big bad. Okay.
The big bad.
Yeah.
I think this character, which we could maybe find a character that's in Breath of the Wild right now and make it really interesting.
Beetle.
It's Beetle. Yeah, it's Beetle. Let's deal with that later, but it's possible. So remember that all the Links and all the Zeldas are their own physical. They don't really have magic. I mean, Zelda can like shoot some magic stuff, but they are not of magic form.
They're conduits for whatever artifacts they have.
They're
right?
carbon-based life forms. But Ganon isn't necessarily that way. Ganon can be a cloud of smoke. Ganon can be a pig. Ganon can be Ganondorf, a humanoid. Ganon can be all these things. So if you imagine, okay, if you have two buckets and you throw a bunch of stones in a bucket, and that's my metaphor for what like a character like Link is. Those stones still just stay stones in a bucket. But if you take four glasses of colored water and pour them into a bucket, it becomes a new thing.
Okay.
I'm suggesting that this character, this archaeologist, starts to try to bring all three back or whatever it is, but the Ganons mix and become an Uber Ganon.
Like an Uber Ganon. Even named
Uber Ganon.
Uber Ganon.
But you see where I'm going with this?
Destroy you, Link and Zelda.
Your puny little swords.
and our not big bad, but our bad.
The archaeologist.
The archaeologist they didn't even really understand that might happen with the Ganon stuff because
I love it when you get excited. I honestly, I'm so excited right now for how excited you are. Yeah.
It's demise in Skyward Sword creates all the other Ganon things and kind of, for the sake of conversation, brings Ganon back as like a ghost figure, whatever.
Okay.
And so now we basically get demise returning as also like Uber Ganons, possibly. Right.
Okay.
At least that's a way. We're not creating an alien from outer space. We're not creating some other sorcerer.
Yeah.
We still get our Ganon in our Zelda movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's big Ganon. And I don't want to go super shredder. Like I want to be careful here, but I think I think it works.
Well, you created a system of, if the archaeologist manifests demise who manifests Ganon, then whatever hero or heroes we have to go through demise or through Ganon to demise, and finally the archaeologist is your final confrontation. If you want to break it into three pieces,
can we use the Triforce? Can we use Power, Wisdom, Courage?
So we're going three pieces.
Wait, so I've said this idea before, and you can slap it down if you want. But I always love the upside down middle piece of the Triforce. You know, it's so
the space between the
space between them.
Yeah.
And so I always view that as like, I feel like it's wasted potential because it's the thing that brings all of them together. It's the thing that holds them together. So we're talking about the power source that we need.
The anti-Triforce.
And the Zonai somehow harnessed this.
Yeah, I can't get these three, but what is the one thing that brings them all together? What if I can tap into that? It's dark,
the power source.
It's upside down. It's basically screaming to be an evil manipulated tool.
I'm into this.
And I think that could be the power source. That is the tapped in potential.
And what our archaeologist discovers via texts or whatever is that all of Hylian culture has been looking at the Triforce, and I'm just looking at the Triforce right now. I'm pointing at it on one of the books. All of Hylian culture has been looking at the Triforce. It's the negative space, not even thinking about the negative space, but realizing that's actually it's gravity. That's the thing that's holding it together and can be manipulated. And that's what our archaeologist inappropriately unlocks. The Zonai could control it. Our new archaeologist can't.
Yeah. Yep. And if we talk about the negative space, it is the thing that brings them together, the thing that connects them. What if that's what can connect to the other universes
or whatever legends,
the other legends, because it's the same. It always is the same continuously holding piece that can reach out and it can feel the other like piece or the other negative spaces.
Let's twist. I like this. You've come up with a great idea here that this negative space, this void within the Triforce. It's been there all along. It's been there all along. And maybe the archaeologist doesn't discover that these legends are fabricated. It's that they are somehow erased from the timeline, erased from existence. Like it is negative space. It is an anti-Triforce in order to keep the universe intact in one way or another. Much like comic book lore, DC Comics does a final crisis every 5-6 years.
They do a crisis every 2 months. Like it's just
to streamline continuity. If this power source, this center of the Triforce, basically retcons reality to keep reality safe, and therefore creates these fractured multiple timeline realities, because it's like it does move them to legend as opposed to keeping them as reality. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and that's why we have to keep the Triforce together, because when the three triangle or the Triforce pieces around it are together, it's contained.
Containing
it is
the
containing.
Anti-Force. I mean, I'm into it.
You know, all you'd have to do is just say, or even something like one of them breaks, one of the shards break,
fractures it.
And if that's gone, this can't be contained anymore, and it can just
blow up reality, create demise or like manifest demise, who manifests all the Ganons into an Uber Ganon.
Mm-hmm.
And
it calls to them,
And here's the archaeologist who's just like, this is what I've always wanted. All the legends are true.
Yeah.
You've broken the entirety of reality.
And the archaeologist isn't trying to release all the Ganons.
No.
The archaeologist is trying to make the three Triforces just be, right? Be true.
I want this all to be true. I love all these stories. It's almost meta commentary on the fans themselves.
Oh my gosh.
I want this to be real. Well, I want this to be canon. This is why there's 3 timelines.
Can you imagine you do everything you can to try and you want to be all of the heroes, all of your heroes. I found a way to be all of the heroes. You open up the doorway and it's literally all of the villains instead.
Oh no,
coming through, and you're just
am I the baddie?
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, this didn't work out well.
A hero's only as good as its villain. A story is only as good as its villain.
Now, what's motivating our archaeologist, who I think is still Zelda, by the way?
Okay, this still works to have her be the one who inadvertently does this?
I'm pretty sure we agreed it was Beetle. So I just want to...
Okay, we'll fight this out later. Do you think this still works within the spirit of this story? Oh, God, it is the Legend of Zelda.
This is why I think it works.
Okay.
In Breath of the Wild, Zelda's big arc is that she's having a hard time finding her power within to literally harness the Triforce. You do not see a Triforce in Breath of the Wild until it shows up on her hand at the very end.
Wow.
They're not even peppered about on the castles. It's crazy. People don't realize this, but you don't really see Triforces in Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
You know what she's lacking that would have prevented her from making this mistake in the first place? Wisdom.
So she is wisdom.
I know, but she would never have made this mistake.
Well, okay, so this is what I'm thinking. So during Breath of the Wild, her arc is that she's trying to pull together her Jedi-ness or whatever it is.
And riddled with self-doubt the entire time, if I recall, a constant, can I even do this?
We've talked about this theme a lot on this show, or on AZP rather, pardon me.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, since we're on Studio Demands It, Zelda in Breath of the Wild it's a really beautiful, she has a really beautiful story because basically the fate of the universe, there's a ticking clock. The fate of the universe is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
It has been told in legend that literally she is the one that's going to stop it. And it's also told in legend that she's going to do it via super magical powers. And she is a normal Hylian, a normal person in a castle going, what?
I'm going to what now?
I'm going to what now? So she's meditating. She's going to fountains. She's trying to find her own inner spirituality. She literally tries to maybe solve the problem with technology by researching the Guardians. She is all over the place. The stress that she's going through is so high. She finds it by the end of the game. But does this movie take place after Breath of the Wild?
I think that's what this was suggesting. At least the demand was suggesting that.
So,
or you had suggested.
Here we go. This is what it is. Okay. So the end of Breath of the Wild, Zelda harnesses her power and stops big old Ganon, big cloud pig Ganon that's at the end of Breath of the Wild. But she doesn't know how she did it. She did it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
This is in the game. We see her put her hand up and light shoots.
I did it.
So we get to the end of the game. We're out of the game, and she goes, it's almost like, what if someone accidentally flew and then they're like, wait, am I Superman? They don't know what Superman is, right?
She's gotta
how
research.
did I do that?
So she's got to seek out answers.
So she goes to ancient Konai stuff, and then she goes down there and she starts to harness all the wisdoms. See, I'm trying to get it where we're trying to get all the things.
Instead of the person trying to look for or wanting to be links and make them real, it's her maybe wanting to talk to other versions of herself.
Right. Whether she knows it or not.
Yeah.
She's trying to find the wisdoms.
She needs as much wisdom as possible.
That's her intent to go down there. Yeah.
So in the pursuit of wisdom, she discovers the anti-Triforce and thinking that is some sort of key to unlocking.
How about she doesn't know it's the anti-Triforce?
Okay.
She discovers it as a button to push, so to speak, a narrative button to push, but she doesn't realize that it's holding all these things, but she knows it's going to activate. She's interested in the wisdom version, wisdom part, but and she realizes that by quote unquote pushing the button, the anti-Triforce button, she doesn't realize that it's going to release all 3.
Sure.
And she has no idea that it's going to make the Uber Ganon.
She's going to unleash this demise and Ganon's, the Uber Ganon combined.
I'm trying to figure out, because I don't want just a bunch of links and Zeldas to pop up all of a sudden.
Right. Because we don't want to just rip off No Way Home of we opened up the multiverse.
Magic Circle. Come on, guys.
Yeah.
I wish Link was here. Hi. Hey, princess.
But what I do like is now she's basically functioning as an archaeologist, but she has positive motivation. It's driven. It's not just
It was a mistake.
Yeah, it's a mistake.
Yeah,
Right.
she
But
she
for
didn't
her to go
intend to
down
do
there,
this.
she has the appropriate motivation.
Yeah.
So
We don't have to create a new character.
in the animated series, the Triforces speak, right?
That's true.
So what
That is
if
not canon? But that's true.
what if this one starts speaking to her
Mhm.
and she doesn't know that it's not the voice of wisdom? She thinks now that boom, oh my gosh, this thing's talking to me. Hey, you should try and check out this ancient tribe.
Oh, right.
Oh, hey, you should definitely try and look
It's
at this other
lying to her.
yeah. And so like whenever she officially summons her wisdom
Interesting.
power, it like jump starts everything.
Okay.
So if we to maintain this almost 3-part structure of a villain that if to beat Ganon, the Uber Ganon to get to demise, and then the final piece is to fight the anti-Triforce, whatever the manifestation of this voice that was like, like unlock me.
Yeah.
That could be demise.
I was
That
gonna
could
say,
be the
that's-
spirit of
I was
demise.
gonna say,
Literally
demise-
trapped in the middle of the
Yeah.
Triforce.
Okay.
Because that lines up with Skyward Sword. That's kind of how they take care of him.
Great.
Mhm.
Okay. So then we have our threat. We've unleashed the threat. We found a nice way to do it without her being motivated by anger or whatnot.
Right.
It's
in character.
Yeah.
It's very much in character.
And then it's a matter of, okay, now how do we defeat this threat that has unleashed versions of Ganon and versions of the does the land get split into, like, if you go to something like the Dark Tower, there are the spaces in between where they literally walk through a haze and enter another.
Oh, okay.
They're walking down the road and they go from one Kansas City in one reality to the Stand, and then they pass through it and they enter Salem's Lot. Like, when this anti-Triforce, this anti-force is released, does it fracture the kingdom as well? So like, I keep thinking in game terms. I'm sorry. Like, I keep putting this together in my head as though it's a game.
I mean, it could be. There's nothing definitively making it a film yet, but I think let's try to make it a film.
Yeah.
Because if you're gonna, a Legend of Zelda film is a bad idea. If you're gonna do one, maybe it's just something as bonkers as this.
It's okay, yeah. But do we fracture the kingdom as well, so that it's never, she's constantly like flickering between, like, okay, I'm in the Majora's Mask Hyrule now. Crap, how do I shift back into the Skyward Sword? Shift back to Link's Awakening.
You
Like,
could always do the Into the Spider-Verse where like everything starts coming to her. You know?
Okay, you're not wrong. That could work. But in trying to create its own thing,
Mhm.
if she's Justice League Unlimited did an episode where the characters kept switching between their alternate versions. So you have Hal Jordan for a moment, who switches back to Jon Stewart, and then he turns into Alan Scott, and so it's all the Green Lanterns keep flipping through.
Mhm.
I'm suggesting something like that, where if she somehow can find Link, and without any warning, Link keeps flipping to different Links.
Well, that's
Okay.
kind of interesting.
So
because we haven't
Zelda's
brought
still-
Link into this yet.
Yeah.
Always just one Link. It's not like a team of Links.
Or at least
But
in
it's
Act 1.
But it's like a
At
roll
least in
of
Act
the
1, yeah,
dice.
yeah.
It's a roll of the dice of which one is going to be in control at the time.
Yeah, if
Guys, does Link go down to the Konai library with her?
no, I'm thinking that she's on her own on this. Like,
Mhm.
that we have Link from Breath of the Wild. He still exists at the end of the game, correct?
Yeah.
Like, he doesn't go anywhere.
No, they kind of just walk off into the sunset together.
So if once the thread is cracked open, end of Act 1 into Act 2, for Link to like, I will protect, I'm leading the kingdom. I will protect whatever's happened here. And
His duty is to be Zelda's guard. That's his
Bodyguard,
yeah.
That's his like a lot in life, and so I think that maintains even after Breath of the Wild.
to
Like, I don't think he elevates to a king or anything
okay,
like that.
Yeah.
I'm not putting him in like an Aragorn position
good.
per se,
Yeah.
but basically like, okay, so rushing to her and being like, I don't know what happened. I will protect you. And it's like, I kind of did this. It's like, okay, we will solve this together. What the heck?
It turns into like Toon Link.
and it
Like,
turns
just-
into
yeah.
a different Link.
Mhm.
Like, that I suppose if we're thinking live action versus animated, that changes a little what I'm suggesting here. But if it's,
Let's do this. Let's
Yeah.
make a rule right now. Let's assume that any visual we speak about
Mhm.
is capable of being realized. I don't want to have a
Great.
conversation of if it's animated or not.
Okay.
Let's just assume the right medium is found after the
Okay,
script is
okay.
written.
Okay.
so my pitch here is that we only ever have one Link on screen until, like, we could culminate in all the Links fighting, but it's constantly shifting reality Link. Like,
because a fun trigger would be is we only have one link until the 4 swords is found, and then you can start. That's how you bring in. I mean, if you want to kind of
then you can have 4 links.
Yeah, or whatever. Yeah,
that's not bad.
And maybe there's more than one 4 sword. Maybe there's an 8 sword. But I also want to point one other thing out that I think we're going to have to deal with in the second act is it triggered for me when you said Majora's Mask. Ganondorf is not the bad guy in Majora's Mask. Majora's Mask, the game Majora's Mask doesn't even take place in Hyrule.
Right.
And there's about 4 or 5 games that don't take place in Hyrule. There's Labrinia, or the Oracle of Seasons and Ages games, Link's Awakening, Majora's Mask, and one more. I feel like there was one more. No, that might be it. But there's 4 or 5 games that take place in other areas. And I've got an idea on how we work with that in Act 2 or 3. I just wanted to point it out.
Okay.
So I think one thing that's interesting is if we're dealing with the Triforce, we're dealing with any game where Ganon and Link and Zelda existed, and probably where Ganon really was the final bad guy, which puts us in the spectrum of Ocarina of Time, Twilight Princess, Skyward Sword, the original The Legends of Zeldas, and A Link to the Past, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's not, and Wind Waker, but it's not Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks, some of these other things.
But would you want to try to find a way to absorb some of some of those realities?
I think we could do that in Act 3, and I'll bring it up when we get there.
Okay.
But I think right now, so just it helps us. It kind of it pulls us in a little bit because it's really kind of the main games is what we're dealing with there. Again, I'll just read them off real quick. Things that games where the Triforce has Ganon and Zelda and Link, Skyward Sword, Ocarina of Time, A Link to the Past. Even though A Link to the Past, it's true. That's still good. Twilight Princess and The Wind Waker. So it's kind of the staples. It's the big 3D staples.
Because especially if the studio wants it to be as viewed by everyone possible, you need to hit the ones that sold really, really well.
Play the greatest hits.
If you're throwing Minish Cap in here or something what? Not nearly as
I agree.
Something that as a Zelda fan but not a Zelda nerd, I should be able to follow this.
This is why in Into the Spider-Verse, Miles Morales and Peter Parker and Gwen are the more important characters than Spider-Man Noir, Spider-Ham, and Keiko as the Japanese anime.
Yeah. Absolutely.
They couldn't be the main characters because who's going to jump on to see that movie? They need to work as referential or supporting. So any of the minor games, the less I shouldn't say popular, but the less known games.
Well, it's common, it's commonly agreed that a lot of the handheld games and stuff like that are totally valid Zelda games. But yeah, it's true. A few less people have played them.
So you could reference those. You could find ways to put those little Easter eggs.
Exactly,
in.
those are the Easter eggs.
There's 4 or 5 other main baddies that exist in these other universes that aren't Ganon at all. There's Bellum and Vadi and all these other things. But then another Zelda trope, though, is that on a lot of these main games. So I think what we're dealing with 5 universes here in Act 1 or whatever. See where I'm going with this?
Yes.
Right.
Or 5 stories, the main Zelda games. And we all are pretty commonly, we all have common knowledge on all of those games. So that's going to work really well. I did so much setup that I forgot what my point was going to be. So why don't you guys just keep going?
The spin-off, the lesser games there. So we've created a scenario that as a film, if you're sitting down to watch this, it's a princess who's going down into, or you have Zelda going on a little adventure of her own, trying to discover this library. She has the Triforce of Wisdom. She doesn't quite understand it.
It's talking to her.
It's
Are we
calling to her.
Yeah.
She's
just hearing a voice
Yeah.
in the wind.
Yeah.
No,
And
not like Frozen.
She's hearing, but because she can use her telepathy to talk to Link, so she's getting it from the other side or something.
But strictly thinking as a film, we're introducing this character who has a bit of power and doesn't quite understand it. And boy, this is sound like Frozen 2. Bear with us, folks. She finds the library.
Gosh, it is kind of similar.
We thought about adding a water horse.
Oh, good.
I guess that's really what I'm waiting for.
Water horse, definitely.
A murderous water horse.
And a little cute little, no, it's not Frozen 2.
Moving on.
Certainly similarities here, but we introduce our character of Zelda as she's our main character in this, which is
so.
And
I'm still a little weirded out that we're not even establishing Link in the very, very beginning, but let's keep going.
Well, we can establish him in the beginning as, hey, I'm your bodyguard, essentially. She's like, well, I need to go to this little thing why don't you just wait up here? I'm going to go down into the cabin.
That's it exactly.
well,
he walks with her, but when she goes down in, she has to go alone for some reason, so he waits outside.
But can we add like a little bit of a fight between the two? Like, because I think I even remember playing Breath of the Wild where at times she's like, leave me alone.
Yeah. Give me
like,
some space.
Can you, like, she
definitely had
this
that
is
moment.
a self-discovery. She doesn't know what's going on with her.
Certainly.
This power is talking to her. She did something great. She can't tap back in.
Mm-hmm.
And the link is just always right there. And she's like, can you just let me have 5 seconds? And like,
This is what it is.
The 5 seconds, he's like, fine, go do this dungeon.
Go dungeon.
We just got rid of Ganon. You should be safe to not stumble onto an ancient evil that's going to release and create all this
What
stuff
are the chances
for
that
4
happens?
minutes. You know,
We totally do that, but it's not a fight. This is what it is. Oh, he just shifted. His eyes just shifted. I got nervous. That moment absolutely happens, but Link makes the mistake because they got through Breath of the Wild. They had a couple quarrels going through Breath of the Wild.
Mm-hmm.
He's trying to respect her and her journey now. So they get to the cave. And she says, this is something I need to go do.
On
He
my own,
wants to go, but she does say, I have to do it alone. She doesn't even say don't.
Yeah.
She says, I have to go alone. He
Okay,
says,
sure.
Okay. He wants to give her that space. And honestly, it is a touch of maybe a bit of a mistake, you know what I mean? But he's almost oversensitive the other way. That's why he does just wait. Does that work for you?
Yeah,
Sure.
strictly from a screenplay perspective, to introduce this bodyguard who sticks a little too close and a princess who is looking for a little bit of independence. It creates a pretty. It's an easy conflict to set up without spending too much time. Like this audience coming to see this movie will not have. A lot of people will not have played Breath of the Wild. So,
elephant in the room, real quick. Is Link talking in this?
yes. I know that's like against everything.
Because I just would
I
say,
think he
like,
does.
if there's I just wanted to make sure that we're going
but
to give
he's
him
a
some
man
dialogue.
of few words.
Yes. Okay.
Man of few words, because canonically he's a man of few words. Zelda has entries in her diary in Breath of the Wild where she says he doesn't speak much because he's holding the weight of all this responsibility and all that kind of stuff. So, he can have some yeses, maybes, and the rest. So I think we right now in this thing, we're not going to decide if it's animated or live action. We are not going to decide how Link talks, but we're going to decide that he does talk.
Yes, but minimalistic.
I think a man of few words works. That he's a man of action, as the character is traditionally. And what adds a little bit of levity to this adventure movie is if we're going to shift reality links to have. I think there's a fun for an actor here to play all these characters, very Andy Serkis-esque, getting to play Smeagol and Gollum. To have one of the Links show up and be like, "Oh man, what it's like to be the mouthy, never shuts up." Like,
no,
my god,
let's deep dive more. It's just the frog version of him.
Yeah.
Like it's not even the animated one; it's the frog.
You guys are hurting me right now. That show is not canon.
Just pinch your nose, guys. It's going to be great.
Even if only for a moment, Link is like a mouthy.
Can you hand me that encyclopedia? There's a few pages of where they just lay out all the links so we can look at them.
Yeah. Well, while you're grabbing that, you want to.
No, I just want to keep going. I'm having a great time.
I don't want to lose the momentum, but I do want to throw to a quick break here. So while David's looking up the links here, let's just throw to some 6.5 ads. Correct, David?
Yeah, let's do it. Probably a Zelda episode or ad, and probably a fan fiction ad.
Yes. So I just want to toss to that real quick. We got some good energy popping here, and I don't want to lose that. So we'll be right back, folks, and listen to these wonderful ads.
Psst, hey you, come over here.
Who, me?
Yeah, you.
Okay.
Hey, do you like Zelda?
Yeah, I like Zelda. Who doesn't?
Oh yeah? You like video games?
Yeah, I dabble, I play them, yeah.
Yeah. Do you like listening to people talk about video games?
Of course I like listening to people. Who reads anymore?
Well, buddy, do I got a podcast for you. It's called Fan Fiction, with an X.
Oh.
And you can find it on all your major podcast distributors.
That sounds amazing.
Oh, buddy, you have no idea.
One question, though. Why are you in my room?
Hey there, podcast listeners. I am David.
And I'm Kate.
And together we host a podcast that you might be interested in if you like The Legend of Zelda.
There are lots of awesome podcasts out there and a lot of awesome Zelda podcasts out there.
That's right, Kate, and we are another one of them. In fact, that is the name of our show, Another Zelda Podcast.
And in our show in particular, we talk about some of our favorite dungeons, characters, boss battles. We do a couple top 10 lists here and there.
We have some deep dive episodes, and we even pepper in a couple quiz episodes. episodes.
We talk about our own experiences. We do some review episodes, talk about our challenges, our struggles, and our victories.
That's right. If it has to do with Legend of Zelda, we talk about it.
You can check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and a lot of the other podcast services that are out there.
And you can also check out our episodes on our website, anotherzeldapodcast.com.
All right, we will see you there.
Okay, bye.
Okay, and we're back. Great.
Hooray.
So that was a fun little break there. Dan, you were just bouncing up and down.
I am.
You said you might have
Literally.
some ideas for how we move
Okay.
into the. So the threat is
So
out
where
there.
Where are we at right now?
So Zelda has inadvertently unleashed this evil. Link, as her bodyguard, is going to. I'm here to protect you. Let's face this evil together.
Mhm.
And now they're heading off into the world. We haven't quite negotiated how we work in other links and how we work in other.
I feel like
Yeah.
we're just at that moment.
But-
I also want to note
Yeah.
there's 8 variations of Ganon.
Great. Okay. So having some sort of Uber Ganon that represents all 8 of these in some way, shape, or form. So we haven't quite worked out if the movie is set up. We have our threat. We've launched ourselves into the action of the entire story, which is now the reality has been broken. There's this massive threat that's drawing power from
Yeah.
multiple realities.
Because Zelda's not trying to bring back all the Zeldas. Zelda's just trying to tap into the magic of
she's just trying to-
previous
Yeah.
Zeldas.
She wanted to have some sort of council of wisdom
Yeah.
that she could somehow talk to and get more information from previous versions of herself or what have you.
I feel like at this point, the temple, the library that we were going to call
Zonai
it,
library.
needs to be destroyed. Then,
Mhm.
like it needs to be like or taken over, or we need to cut her access off to learning anything more.
Yeah.
Because
I
then
see.
I was thinking, so oh my gosh, then how do we learn anything? Well, because my point is, I do want to introduce how the great fairies can be involved in this.
Great.
Okay.
Because I feel like that's another theme that can go through quite a few of them. Maybe the great fairies, and I don't know a lot of lore, maybe they are the ones that we go to figure out what's actually happening now.
hmm
Well, we may
maybe
not-
they can be the Zonai, like they knew them. Aren't they? Great fairies have been around for forever and ever and ever.
they're in every single
Yeah.
And
Zelda game.
and perhaps they could be the exact same. Not that they share like where Zeldas could be multiple Zeldas across reality. Ganons or there's only like the sword, like the shield, the fairy. These great fairies as well are there's only one of them. They're
Yeah.
like they exist through all the realities as one individual being. So much so that in a cinematic version of this, to have a shifting face that they are never one solid form.
Okay.
Because they
Yeah, yeah,
are they are
yeah,
they exist
they literally look different in all the different games. Like,
and to have that representation shifting constantly, that they never take a solid form, voiced by Judi Dench.
Of course.
Yes.
Dame Judi Dench.
Dame Judi Dench, yeah.
Mhm.
And that they are constantly shifting and bestowing knowledge because
Yeah.
they have existed across
Because
all of reality.
with the amount of information that they need, the library being destroyed, the next greatest source of information has to be them. Has to be the Great Fairy.
well, and I also want to just note that really we also have our 3 goddesses that created all of Hyrule, which the 3 Triforces are based on.
hmm
And it was Nehru, Furore, and Din.
hmm
They're the red, green, and blue things in Ocarina that are
Yeah,
flying down
yeah.
to the land, and they appear everywhere.
Mhm.
So maybe the great fairies are our conduit to them.
Okay.
You know,
Yeah.
because the great fairies do exist in all the different games.
Yeah.
but they don't ever appear to like know the secrets of the cosmos.
Right.
But the goddesses do,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
the fairies maybe can get there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Get us there.
So how do we start triggering the link changes though?
There, yes.
Right,
If,
like-
if we like the idea of Link, of reality shifting in such a
Like-
fashion that Zelda's the constant,
Yeah.
that Ganondorf is now one constant like combination, and that the world just keeps vibrating around her
Mhm.
and shifting.
Yeah, this is weird, but I'm into it. Let's do it.
Yeah. I suppose like escaping the library as it's crumbling and
Yeah.
getting out and seeing Hyrule burning, or
Well,
like
giant pulse wave. You know,
Yeah.
it's just something that like literally. Okay, so now
Mhm.
this is free. This is the energy that is going to trigger. You know, and you could always. It's kind of a trope, but like it passes over a flower and the flower turns from blue to red.
Right.
You know, or in Breath of the Wild, she's really associated with these blue flowers, right?
There's a silent princess flower that grows after she.
And you just see you go past it, and all of a sudden, different.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to show that like, like things are officially starting to like have a change occur.
So there it is. So so Zelda triggers the trigger, but maybe she's not even aware that all the Ganons have mixed their metaphorical water cups or whatever.
Yeah.
That the Uber Ganon has come to be. Maybe she's not even aware of that, but maybe she does feel the power of the previous Zeldas with her, and they can materialize later on in Act 2 or 3. But I think it was hard for me to like love like a glitching Link, basically. But like I'm into it. And I think what happens is as they're going up out of the tower or whatever, he does start clipping from one link to another link to another link. I think that's what we're trying to do, right?
Something like that.
Why isn't she then? Why isn't she clipping from Zelda to Zelda to Zelda?
Because she has the power of the goddess of Hylia.
Oh.
The goddess Hylia, I just realized this, which Link doesn't have. Yeah. So the Zeldas are the like personification of this goddess Hylia, and the hero of time, the hero of courage, doesn't have a larger spiritual celestial drive force.
Okay.
So Zelda can pull from that, but Link doesn't have that base, and so it's clicking around.
If we want to get meta on it, she's the nexus point of this entire franchise. It's the legend of her. And she's protected by being essentially the center of the universe.
Yeah. Is she the only one with the Triforce right now? She has power like in Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
so
you know what?
Link,
they never show
Link doesn't have the courage yet.
His hand never glows in Breath of the Wild or anything. Like
Ganon doesn't have power. So maybe just to make it a little bit more simplified, like the power that she has, force field, this doesn't affect her. So that way we can keep her constant. And then that explains why everything else is starting to go a little
gabagool.
Gabagool.
Yeah, that works.
Thoughts, feelings, and emotions on that.
Because then so she has somewhere to go to get information, whether seeking out the goddesses or seeking out the Great Fairy. She has a reason for not vibrating through reality. And we know the big thing that needs to be destroyed. So there's a lot of like steps and information on the table that allows us to navigate through the story. As far as like the first shift of Link,
I have a thought, but keep going.
Good. I will pitch this. I think the first time, it shouldn't be right away. It shouldn't be as they're escaping. It should be once they're free from it. And like, what have I done? It's like, we'll figure it out. I feel weird. And then, and a child version is now standing there. So the first change we see is to go from Breath of the Wild, adult, fully capable Link to what the, like, not to make it light or funny, but that first shift should be to a less capable, less confident, less heroic Link.
I like where this is going. My take on that too is I think we precede that with not Link just clipping as they're escaping. I agree completely with you. But maybe while they're escaping or shortly thereafter, before his clip, so remember, these are stories. Technically, we're choosing that these are stories come to life.
Right.
They might be slightly factual. They might not be, but these are stories come to life. These are not characters coming from another dimension. So Link might be, he might still stay as his Link, but he quote unquote feels weird because he's getting extra memories.
Oh, sure.
He's remembering weird. It's like almost a dream or something.
Like if
he's remembering Wind Waker Link. He's remembering Skyward Sword Link.
If something threatens them in the temple and he like easily defeats it, and he's like, I don't even know what that was.
It could start like in a fun way like that, and then he starts getting confusing thoughts and emotions, but he doesn't physically clip yet. But his brain is clipping through all these experiences.
So consciousness clipping.
So they seek it out. They go, we got to figure out this out. Maybe they go to a Great Fairy. We got to figure out why Link feels so weird. And they learn, well, you're actually imbued now. Is that a word? Imbued? Empowered? Imbued with all the knowledge and the history of all these other Links. But the only way to sort it out is you got to separate this stuff. You gotta put these things in containers.
They're all fighting because Link
which can materialize these other Links, right?
There we go. I like where you're heading.
He's so used to doing everything by himself. Link is I'm a one-person hero. So what if you have a bunch of people who think they are the only one who can do it, all fighting to be the only one who can do it?
Yeah,
to a certain degree.
He's split. He's multiple personalities. Who's driving? Who's behind the wheel?
It starts as memories. He just gets a lot of memories.
Yeah.
Then it starts becoming his active thoughts start to conflict. I like that.
Right.
I don't personally, for me, I'm not interested in him like doing a silly voice and doing another silly voice as himself. Like personally want that, but I think him having conflicting action points or choice making because of that would be really cool.
Even being bad at a certain weapon suddenly, because he doesn't use this. There are common weapons throughout all the games, but there's some games that don't utilize the boomerang. I don't know. You can tell me better than that.
Like there's like 5 different versions of the grappling hook, and they're all a little different for different reasons. So our start to Act 2 is Link feels weird. We got to sort it out, and somehow what we solve in Act 2 is we split that stuff up, and then these other storied links become flesh and blood.
Yeah.
What if just an idea? The Master Sword, the magic version, the portion of it stops working unless it's the magic is tied to the consciousness. So all of a sudden he goes to shoot a laser, from the show we watched last night, but it's not working because it's not this Link's Master Sword anymore.
That's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Frequency's not aligned.
Yeah, it's like this. It's just a sword now until we can get this Link's consciousness back.
I love this because the Master Sword storyline absolutely apes off the Sword in the Stone storyline.
Yes.
Every single time in every single Zelda game where Link pulls the sword out, he's doing it because he's the chosen hero of courage and others can't pull it and he can.
He's the only one.
Like in Breath of the Wild, he can't even do it until he's worthy.
Yeah.
All right. So even though it's the same sword, the swords from all these different stories can only respond to that one Link.
Yeah.
I see where we're going.
Even being mid-fight and the sword suddenly like being too heavy for him if you want to get almost being worthy Mjolnir-esque.
And it takes the OP of the Master Sword that it sometimes has right on out. Like you can't use it. It's gone.
There's the progression. He starts getting dreams. He starts getting internal hallucinations. There's a lot of like dream sequences in Zelda games where we go into Link's head and all of a sudden a Deku scrub is chasing him and stuff like that. Like this happens a lot. And so that's how we introduce it. He has weird memories. Then he has weird emotions, and now he's having weird hallucinations, and it's getting worse and worse and worse.
So all while they're trying to seek out the information to solve what Zelda has done. So we have these two parallel stories happening with each other where his entire motivation is like, I must protect you. And little by little,
that stays constant.
He still wants to, but his ability to do so is starting to diminish.
But I just realized, Zelda and Link, but I think Zelda does need to know that the Ganons have been released when she triggers the Zonai library thing. Because I think that Link having the weirdness, I'll call it, is our kind of like our side plot.
Yes. While
Act 2 plot is actually we got to go fix this Ganon thing.
Yes. Like the main threat here is I unleash this. We need to stop it. Because Link is like, I will help you do that.
Yeah, but I got to figure out what's happening.
I'm having issues.
I love this. This is working because we're getting bigger and bigger because I think Act 3 is the way that I'll just jump to it and we can see if we can go to this point.
Sure.
I think Act 3 is the way that they learn that they can defeat the Uber Ganon force is that they start to pull in other bad guys and from the other lands that don't have Ganon in them.
Okay.
So they have to pull in Bellum and Vadi and all these other things
to work with to
kind of work with them. We kind of bring everybody in. I don't want to say we end game it at the end, but I think like you can go full. Other stories come in for this final battle. Like, could we go to that point? So we're taking stepping stones as we get there.
I think I have a pitch for that.
Okay.
If initially somewhere in the midst of this 2.5 hour movie, Link, as he's got these memories, these manifestations, these voices in his head, these conflicting identities, is magic or what have you, like, we need to separate. If we do the 4 swords situation where there's 4 Links, right?
I love it.
And that is still not the way to defeat. So if we want to think in terms of standard monomyth, get to our lowest point is the first confrontation against the big bad fails because they don't have the right, they're not doing it correctly.
Yep.
This is how we do it. Zelda, trust me.
Split the links.
We
can get them.
And then trying to fight and fail.
And it doesn't work.
Then they're all going back together into one and Link being like, why didn't that work? Well, who has the wisdom to say, like, it's not about separating.
What if they stay separate? I'm sorry.
Okay. I was suggesting it's not about separating yourself. It's about what I need to do, what you need to do, what we've accidentally done is embrace it all as one. And if it's a matter of facing him with other things, we will do it together. Let's work together and then you find a way to access these other powers. That's my pitch there. If you want to stick with the multiple Links versus Ganon and bringing in your other bad guys.
Well,
I'm cool.
one of the fun things about a multiverse is having fun with these characters talking with each other in a world that never could before.
Right.
Like the most fun about No Way Home is when all the Spider-Man, the Spider-Mans talk to each other.
Right.
I think some of that fun is important. I'm not personally offended if the other links, the other 5 or 6 other links from at least the Ganon-based Zelda games, stick around.
Sure.
And also, by the way, they're not. It's one thing that is different again with what we're building is it's not like these people are a la No Way Home or a la MCU. It's not like these people are going to get teleported back to the reality. They're being brought into existence and then back out. They just kind of force ghost away.
Right. Because they are fiction.
They're fiction. Exactly. You know what I mean? So these characters come in, they don't have an existential crisis. We don't have to deal with any of that. And then they can kind of go back into their story if they disappear. What's up, Dan?
No, so in the realm of like splitting all the links out, say we have like 4 or 5 in there all at once, and it's affecting his ability to use the Master Sword, affecting this. And so I don't know if we want to use the Great Fairy or however we decide to, get the power to split them all up. I was thinking like,
I feel like the Great Fairy could do that.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden they're like, okay, they're split. And then Link's back there. Where'd they go? Like,
keep going. What are you talking about?
It's not like all of a sudden, poop, 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 people. But what if the consciousness goes into the representative? So like, maybe for a while he's like, like Wolf Link. Like all of a sudden, like a wolf somewhere else, you just like,
oh, like so they're not nearby. It's like just somewhere out in.
Yeah. So it's like, we never said that like they were going to instantly appear. And they're like, oh my God, this failed. Like, I'm glad you're back, but where'd everyone go? Like there's still 9 Ganons and now we only have 1 Link. And then all of a sudden, like as it goes on, then I'll Endgame. Just all of a sudden, Wolf Link shows up.
That's how you're building that moment.
Young Link shows up. Old man Twilight Princess, or I guess we already have Wolf Link, but like all these other Links that have taken form of a better representation of Link start showing up.
I see where you're going with that.
And then Master.
Also, it does help that these extra links aren't just tagging along for Act 2.
Well, therein lies the gamble of do we separate them, thus creating another portion of another quest within this movie, trying to keep it under 3 hours here, or do you keep them close so you don't have to gather up the forces?
Well, do we even have a quest to go find them? Because I'm saying
that would be the additional plot point. I think,
if it separates, they don't realize that they're still in this plane. They think it's just we got rid of them. Crud.
They being our main characters don't
like
really. They've gone back to their stories.
Yeah,
but
it's
actually,
like, okay, so we cleared your head. Cool.
Oh, and that's how you get your on your left moment.
Yeah, and that's how you get the portals opening up and it's just an idea. Just everyone coming in.
There. I'm of 2 minds because it does lengthen the story by explaining that. Because I like where your head's at in terms of like, it creates a nice hitch in the giddy up that I got them all out of my head, but now where the hell are they?
Okay, so then what if we bring in, since this is, never mind. I was going to say the Guardians, the 4 Guardians of Breath of the Wild.
Right.
Or like, we split them and the subconscious thing just goes to other people. So each person is a Link, even though it's not a Link.
So it's,
then whatever weapon they have then gets imbued with the Master Sword essence.
That's kind of interesting.
So now we have 4 Links, different Links. Different Master Swords, but each one is a representative of a Link that from whatever game or legend we want to bring up.
Correct. I see where you're at there. That if we were to do that, structurally speaking, we would have to introduce this entourage earlier in the movie. That if we're going to say like at some point Link gets rid of his links and imbues them into others around him, then we would introduce an ensemble earlier in the movie that we would then give the links to later. Yeah. Not a bad idea. There's something
just
to that.
Throwing some out there.
If we manifest the links as physical beings and maintain the single sword, an action sequence pitch would be having them like they have the boomerangs and the arrows and the hook shots and whatnot, the bombs.
But weirdly, Breath of the Wild Link doesn't have any of that. I just realized.
Well,
I don't want to get weird. I don't want to get too technical, but
the idea of 1 sword and 4, 5 links all fighting in a sequence where they keep tossing the sword to each other is just an idea of an action sequence.
I mean, that does sound
fun.
And
then also my idea kind of cuts getting to see the different links,
I think
Oh yeah.
He does.
I know. I'm still thinking.
He is
You
thinking.
guys are giving me a lot of ideas. I'm still processing some stuff here. I'm trying to figure out the end of Act 2 to get into 3.
Well, how does it all end? You had suggested bringing in the villains or the powers of the non-Ganon villains
Yeah.
into this.
So
And I think there's something to
I think
that.
we indulge a
does-
little bit with
does
this
each
third act.
Ganon then go take over a certain? So Ganon from Ocarina of Time, he's taking over Mount Doom.
think-
Ganon from
I think all the different Ganons, the way I've been visualizing is all the Ganons are one single
entity.
entity, and they are Demise-esque.
They're Sauron.
Yeah,
Got
the Ganons became Sauron basically,
Yeah.
and so that is a single force, but it's just so dang strong. I think I'm in the mood. Sometimes this is gratuitous, but I'm in the mood if we indulge in the third act and we have every stinking character you can think of lining up for the Sauron battle and all the, you know what I mean? Like, I'm okay if that's where this goes, because if we're making Zelda multiverse, you know what I mean? One of the most fun things about playing like Hyrule Warriors, which is a game that unabashedly, it's not canon, but unabashedly just brings in every character you can think of.
Right.
There is that fan service to see these people, and it's a lot of fun to see. I'm okay if somehow.
Okay. I can make this work.
Let's do it.
Well, Zelda's the one who made this mistake by reading the ancient texts and bringing out all the fiction into reality. If she made that mistake, now she understands it. When it comes down to it's final battle time, we need as many warriors as possible. She's the one that go, well, I pulled all these things out of the fiction to begin with. Let's just do it again and create an army. So she's the one who can manifest every character you want.
And it's each Link and all of their representatives, like each Link that we've been. So the Links travel with us in if the Links travel with us in Act 2, we're getting used to these 5 or 6 other Links hanging out.
Which legend are you? Which legend are you? It's almost like the Peter moment of like, tell what villains have you fought? Well,
I agree.
A campfire moment of explaining their lore.
Wait,
Just
he was
to
he
see
was a huge.
Wind Waker Link going like everything was underwater and now it's not. Like
You're from the
this is-
castle underwater.
This is great. Like, you know.
Oh, the
But you
water
fought-
temple.
You
Oh.
fought this guy before? Yeah, but he just had big swords. When I fought him, he was a big old pig.
Yeah.
You know?
How'd you get to the water temple? Metal boots? That's it? You used metal boots?
How did you hold your breath? Well, blue outfit.
There's a lot of talking Link, and I'm okay with it. Like, we're doing it. I'm fine with it.
There is
But-
that yes.
Wait,
I
the
guess what
princess hasn't kissed you yet? Ugh.
Get out of here. Get out of here.
Also, what I think that's how we're ramping up to the craziness at the end is that basically Act 1, we don't have a bunch of characters walking around with us. Act 2, we at least have the Links walking around with us. Act 3 now is probably the other Zeldas join Zelda. She
was gonna
figures
say,
out how to
how-
manifest that. Oh, okay. So with Link, he doesn't have the goddess to steer him
Yeah.
correctly. Zelda has that because of Hylia. So Link's getting the weird emotions, the weird thoughts. Okay, fine. They learn how to, I'll just say, separate those things and manifest them as flesh and blood characters.
Yeah.
Zelda's the one who learns how to do it. So she does it to fix him, but later she can do it as an empowerment. She's like, got it. I'm going to do it to myself.
Well, I would suggest against that.
Okay.
Because if we're thinking strictly as go to the screenplay structure of this, her journey here, she's separated the bad guys and manifested them into one whole thing. Link is getting broken and put back together and broken, put back together.
Mhm.
She basically gets a reward in the end of being able to transcend to some higher plane to speak to all the Zeldas. Like
I'm into that.
It's an earned moment, whether it's in the climax.
I mean,
or
she's basically being the goddess Hylia, which is great. That's totally on brand.
what her goal was to begin with was to tap into the knowledge of all the Zeldas. And then she finally gets that reward in the end by using her wisdom to manifest. Go ahead.
Thought, and you can shut me down. That's completely fine. But like, so we said she's protected because she has the Triforce of Wisdom, right? So that means she can't be buzzed out.
Right.
So what if, since you told us that she not only has the Triforce of Wisdom, but also has a goddess like protection to a certain degree, she realizes she needs more of her, so she has to give up the Triforce of Wisdom.
Mm-hmm.
And by giving it
listening.
up, then she is now able to channel all of the Zeldas.
Hylia.
So it's like, by giving up, and the whole time she's like, I'm not even that powerful. It's just the wisdom.
Mhm.
That's the only thing. Anyone can have this. I'm not special.
Yeah.
It's
Anyone
just
could do
because
this.
I just have this magical. So she gives it up. And then when she gives it up and realizes that she has the goddess power and that she herself and all of the Zeldas.
If we could structure it in such a way that the wisest choice would be to give up the wisdom.
But isn't that it? Doesn't that go in with it? Like the wisest thing a powerful person can do is to give up a power.
Yeah.
You know,
And
I
then,
think we go with that.
and then having a transcendent moment where she's made the true sacrifice, the true decision to then be like, okay, you now have the capacity to tap into the wisdom of
And then
all
it's
of us.
the God power
Yeah.
of all of her
Yes.
is the thing that maybe
Go
brings.
Like if she's just proved anything, is that if anyone has ever been capable of holding courage, power, and wisdom, it's her.
Yeah.
Like of those three things, you got it. I think wisdom, intelligence, the thoughtfulness necessary to wield power and to have the courage to know not to use it and when to give it up. Zelda is the true representation of the Triforce,
Yeah.
not Link.
I mean, it's called
Not-
The Legend of
Yeah.
Zelda. Like she is
Yeah.
the.
Yeah, and I think in that first game too, when it was just the one triangle, like we were joking about last
Yeah.
night in our AZP episode, I think it is kind of connected to her. I don't want
Well,
to get into it. 'Cause actually, I think it's the courage. I don't want
If the final Magoober here that gets like to defeat she gives up the wisdom to somehow empower and bring in her army of endgame moment, like right, transcend, be told you've done it. Here's the wisdom you have proven. In Breath of the Wild, courage and power Triforce don't exist yet, correct?
Well, we don't really know. The only time we see the Triforce in Breath of the Wild is the full 3.
Yeah.
And it like shows up on her hand when
Yeah.
she does her big old light power at the end.
Yeah.
And it's
So
really the only
she-
time we've seen it.
So,
So
it could
she
be
is-
out there.
And I'm suggesting that she gives up wisdom for her sacrifice in this to defeat the villain. Has her almost like a Harry Potter moment where Harry goes to talk to Dumbledore at King's
Yeah.
Cross Station. That she returns with the full Triforce,
Oh, and that's how.
and that's
Breath
how
of
we
the
get
Wild
Breath
should-
of the Wild gets all the pieces.
I
is
love
that
this.
She comes back with it.
And what it does too is at the end of Breath of the Wild 1, when the full Triforce, the full in quotes Triforce shows up on her hand,
Mhm.
that's cool. She had it for a few seconds
Yeah.
by ways, but she didn't know how to. She couldn't harness it. She
Yeah.
couldn't harness it. Now she has it.
Mhm. So she comes back. She has the Triforce. It is a Deus Ex Machina moment where
Oh,
she
of
literally
course, yeah.
has the machine from the gods that can be used to set this all right.
And then lure, because if we're still going the upside down,
Mhm.
now that it's complete again,
Yes.
now that the other two pieces are
she can
here,
contain
now
the
that-
anti-Triforce.
I'm into it.
it's like, okay. And all she had to do was give up the power of the wisdom
Mhm.
to essentially summon the other two to a certain degree.
Yep.
And then now that it's complete,
So then if once she combines it, once she returns from this moment of speaking to the other Zeldas to uniting the Legend of Zelda, comes back, everything starts tearing apart. Ganons are now separated into pieces instead of one force. Now it's necessary for us to have multiple links and multiple heroes or fighters to go up against the individual Ganons.
There's that. Yeah.
Yeah.
is there an evil Great Fairy?
Not that I know of.
There should be with the anti-Triforce, right?
'Cause I was thinking, like, since we have the good Great Fairy that took Link and then separated out,
Mhm.
like I was just thinking if we had an evil Great Fairy that did the. Oh no!
I think your anti-Triforce is Demise in there. I think Demise is that.
Demise
okay.
is the anti-Great Fairy.
Okay,
It's like
cool.
the
think
okay,
bad
so.
guy.
I
awesome.
think
I'm
so.
a big fan of that.
Yeah. I think that's what we're kind of circling around.
Okay,
By
cool.
accident, even.
Yeah. So with that question, we accidentally stumbled onto it. So as I like to ask when doing this is how does this all end? It isn't just the defeat of the villain/villains. Do the legends remain true? Does it
Right.
return to the fiction? Like
Right.
where do we, how does this come to a conclusion? As a film, we've introduced a character who is seeking knowledge, who accidentally unleashed evil, and then spends the story trying to recontain the evil and understand purpose
Yeah.
and being and what is
Who she is? Yeah.
right? So the fulfillment of this as a film is you defeat the villain, but how do we leave this, right? What's the denouement of all this? And I throw that to you guys to see if anything.
So logistically, if we do go full bonkers town and we have 40 characters from all the different Zelda games lined up for this big old battle at the end, which is
Mhm.
just a ton of fun to see, I think they're all still there. right? So then a choice must be made.
Ah.
Do they go back or not? Is it real? Is it not? Is it stories or not? Right? I think that's how that happens.
Instead of say like No Way Home, since is like the biggest inspiration point for actually Spider-Verse did it as well. They had to go back to their realities.
Right.
If
These characters don't exist except for in stories, and stories can change, which is what's interesting.
Yeah. So then it is a question of does Dorothy return from Oz? Like, are we giving the characters a choice, or do they have to go back? Like in Spider-Verse, in No Way Home, to save reality, everyone had to go back.
Right.
Let's do something different. Let's not just mimic.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards these characters don't have to go back. I'm leaning towards, because these characters are fictional in Legends, and Legends are there to inspire and to lead. I think that these characters are exuding full support with our main characters and the choices they need to make.
Yeah.
They are guardians themselves. They're characters on the shoulder. You see where I'm going with this? Like,
They're all the conscience.
I think I think Ocarina of Time Link from that story is like, glad we were able to help.
Yeah.
You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
And it also keeps with, if we cape with only one consciousness can have the Master Sword. It's not like we have a bunch of people that can now use the Master Sword. They're essentially normal again. They're normal, like, elves or, Croaky or whatever they were. Like, they're just normal people now.
If we go with the idea of Link imbuing into people existing in this reality, as opposed to manifesting Links, you're saying,
I'm leaning towards these characters materialize.
Got it. Okay.
And they don't have memories.
I see where you were going.
Okay.
But yeah.
No,
I'm leaning
you're
towards this because I think it's easier to get rid of them.
Yes, you are right.
Honestly, they just exist and then they don't. They're a force ghost. You know what I mean? They're there for what they need to be.
Okay.
They can have their own consciousness and thoughts and but all of that's informed by their stories.
And if we're thinking, so if going from the studio level to say that all these characters return to their stories, now the studio has every reason to go, if you liked any one of these characters, please purchase their games.
Yeah.
I mean, really, yeah.
Thinking like a cold-hearted business person.
So I think these characters aren't like, I got to get back to my story, I have unfinished business. I think that all of these fictional characters are they're fulfilling the story they needed to fill in this story, and because that's what you know what I mean. Like, I don't want to get weird, but like the characters are there just to be these characters to be part of.
We're here to protect Zelda.
Yeah, and to do their thing and offer if anything, if they were able to contribute in Zelda learning the things she needed to learn, that was their job.
They fulfilled their duty. Yeah.
Yeah.
They will always be willing and proud participants of the Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
And maybe a few of the Links and a few of the Zeldas feel this way. Maybe a few of them don't initially. You can kind of play. You can spiral around that a little bit towards the end of 2 and the beginning of 3.
Can I get a kiss before I go back? Oh no!
You guys keep bringing him into this universe. I will not allow it. What are you gonna next? You're gonna let the CDI games be part of this universe?
No. What was the company that made the animated series? The Magical World of
DIC.
He can stay there.
Yeah. I like it. I do.
In many adventure stories, it is the return to home. It is the return home changed, right? If we're going to follow the monomyth, Joseph Campbell, Hero with 1,000 Faces, we return to where we began, and now with a different understanding of reality. And Zelda has achieved what she had sought in the first place, which was wisdom, which was to understand the wisdom and of the stories and of the legends that have always existed for her. And now she has not only like understands it, but she participated in such a level that, how do you top this?
Yeah.
This needed to be a movie, right?
I like it because we don't really need growth from Link, right? Link is not much personality there, really. I mean,
sure. I want to point to an incredible film that has a main character and a protagonist that are not the same thing. Mad Max Fury Road.
Oh, right. Sure.
Sure.
Yeah.
Max is the main character, and he has a little growth. He does have a tiny arc, but the main protagonist is Furiosa, who has the full journey. And in this situation of this Zelda movie we've just pitched, Link does have a bit of a change. If anything, he learns how capable Zelda is that he doesn't need to be her shadow at all times to protect her.
But if she's going down in a dungeon and says, "Wait here for 5 minutes,"
He's
like
probably-
never
next
again.
time he's going.
Like
Next
I'm
time
always
going.
there. Like no more spelunking.
That's his little bit of growth.
That is kind of cool because maybe there is this like mega respect thing that happens at the end between the two of them, and that is his arc. He needs to protect her, but
which is why I think going all the way back, it could be the fight that makes her want to go down there because he doesn't believe she can defend herself.
I'm listening.
And if we get a little meta on it, it's the evolution of Zelda as a character, which you've spoken about at length on AZP, is that she's come so far as the damsel in distress from the first couple games where she's just princesses in another castle situation, that she's grown so much to literally being a character you can fight with in Smash Brothers, right?
Mhm.
Like she's Ocarina of Time made her a Sheikah, like she plays Sheik in it, right? Like she's a warrior in her own right.
In Ocarina of Time, Sheik knows more about what's going on than Link does.
Yeah.
Like Sheik helps Link move along.
Yeah. So getting that in the film of that, like of Link accepting, like, oh no, she can really, I respect how well she can handle herself. That's why I'm not the main character in these games.
Mm-hmm.
That's why the games aren't named after me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know, right? I like this. I like all of this. Let's have a fun moment here. I feel like we're probably getting towards the end. I think we have our story.
Mhm.
Let's have our on your left moment. Let's have some fun with that.
Okay.
I think, how do you guys feel? So I think let's just get nuts and let's let it.
You want to get nuts?
Let's let all the spaghetti hit the wall.
Let's get nuts.
And not critique it too much.
Sure.
All right? Let's just go for it.
The broad strokes are here. If you told me right now to write out a beat sheet for this movie, I could sit down and do it, right?
Mhm.
But if you want to start getting into the nitty gritty, this is the opportunity to throw some fun in here.
We've gotten used to our 5 or 6 links over Act 2. A few more things, a few other side characters start getting pulled at the beginning of Act 3 because this power of being able to bring the characters out of the stories is happening. But I think like
There's a never-ending story quality to this that I'm just realizing.
there is a little bit, right?
And I'm way okay with that.
I'm super okay with it too.
Even if for production-wise, like tapping into that style of adventure storytelling, I'm all for it.
I think the progression here is we have our Triforce-based links traveling with us for Act 2, but then we start to get our links from other situations. So we get our Phantom Hourglass link, our Spirit Tracks link, our Forward Swords links, our Link's Awakening link. Even though I think Link's Awakening is technically A Link to the Past link, but I digress. We get our Minish Cap link and stuff like that. They start to pop up too, but then we have fun with side characters. Fine. I guess the other Zelda characters don't show up until our big moment up there in her Dumbledore moment. I get that. I love that. But all the links are there. Other protagonists, other famous protagonists from all the other games, the battles. So like obviously our climax of this film, the end of Act 3 is Zelda learning about herself.
Yeah.
But I think like the beginning of Act 3 is a faux climax and it's this big battle.
Right.
You know what I mean? That's the fun we have.
Yeah.
And in that big battle, that's where we do go to Bonkers Town. And it's all of those characters. It's the Talon and Malin and every other character that was a protagonist or an NPC. All the Zoras are showing up. Gorons are showing up. Like all of our Darinia's there. We start to be able to bring them all up. And maybe even as Zelda is learning how to bring people out of the stories, it almost is like a boulder down a hill and it goes faster than I'm visualizing she's not walking around being like, and another one,
no,
and another one. She's like, okay, let's bring what we need because look, this force, like literally maybe just across the battlefield, this force is getting nuts. She's manifesting these characters, but it almost takes off faster than she can handle. And you can imagine all of these
just start flooding out.
Yeah, flooding out, appearing. And they're ready to go. And then we even go one step further, like I hinted earlier. And all these characters are trying to fight, or maybe they don't even go into battle yet, but they're like, we're still not strong enough for this Ganon. And we find ways to bring in some chaotic neutral characters from the Zelda games and even go as far as bringing in some of the other
villains.
Big bads.
Yeah.
And then it's like all of these stories won't exist if we don't all work together, blah, blah, blah. I think we do it. I think it's a little cheesy, but we do the powers combined. They all go for the big Ganon. Big Ganon splits into all the different Ganons. Big Ganon splits into zombie bokoblins that are just ghosts. You know what I mean? And then we have our battle. We have our nuts battle. And I think that's it. I think we do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And to go structurally at the beginning of this, while we introduce Zelda and wanting to go to the library, hints, especially in the library, is all the characters we're going to see at the end of the movie.
Love it. I love it.
Right? Paintings, hieroglyphs on the wall and cover art and paintings and whatnot, so that as fans watching this, they go, oh, this is cool. They're doing references to all the other games to see them manifest in the end. And from a layman seeing this who isn't familiar with the games, it's a subconscious seed planted to pay off later.
Love it. Love it. Yeah. Absolutely. You can even do deep cuts where in the Zonai language, there's like other lists of characters that if you translate it like Arabesh or something, then you could actually like pause the frame and be like, oh my gosh, they're actually listing all these people too. You know what I mean? Like we just go for it. We're just this is the movie. We're making a multiverse movie.
Yeah.
I think you go for it on the top of Act 3.
You go full end game here.
I think so. But what I've also like is that our resolution isn't just like, well, we made a big army and that fights another big army and that's the conclusion. I really like that the through line here is Zelda.
Mm-hmm.
I like that she triggers it. I like that she triggers it for a reason where she's trying to improve herself.
Mm-hmm.
I love where this is going. I don't know. Is there any closing comments or polishes that we have to do?
Well, we after the defeat and the decision of if these characters returning back into their respective stories, right? We are left with Link and Zelda, right? Like, there's no reason to leave anyone behind. Okay, yes.
Oh wow.
There's a moment. This is cheesy, but I'm doing it.
Yeah.
And maybe we could maybe you make the tone right.
I love the cheese. Go.
There's the moment where Zelda's going to send some of the links back, our main links, our Ocarina Link, our Wind Waker Link, our Twilight Princess Link, the ones that have really been with us since the beginning of Act 2. And all the other characters are starting to go back to their stories. They're not sad about it, but like Zelda or Link or some character says something like, but wait, do you really want to go? And one of those alpha links or one of those main links just say like, it's fine. Just keep telling our story.
Boom! That's great. That's not cheesy. I don't care. That's cheesy. That's
You know what I mean?
sweet as hell.
Yeah.
So if you see them all,
Just keep telling
you
keep the legend alive.
you see them all disappearing, right?
Yeah.
And then Kid Link is scared.
Aw.
Kid Link is like, I don't know where I'm going.
Yeah.
I don't, and like
I'm into this.
Then she like bends down, has a real moment, like, don't worry, everything's gonna be fine. I will always tell your story. So
There it is.
take
Yeah.
your line. She gets to deliver it.
Yep.
Chills moment,
Mhm.
and just to see this little scared child who just fought the biggest monster he's ever seen in his life.
Yeah.
And then this moment of like his existence is being questioned and the comforting, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah.
Your story will live on.
Mhm.
And just like
Okay, I can do this.
and
love
then
it.
just, okay.
Maybe he puts his sword in his sheath or something, or tightens up his shield just as he kind of evaporates or
this.
whatever.
Yeah.
What I love about this too is we're honoring the logic that we set up in the beginning. We didn't accidentally create multiple timelines by having these characters exist.
Mhm.
It's the little bit of the never-ending story thing. They just came to be,
Yeah.
and they will only live
They're
on as
characters
stories, and
from
it's fine.
stories.
We didn't start a new thing.
And
When that little kid Link, I mean, he has a consciousness. All these characters have consciousness while they're in this movie with us, but it's not like they don't.
cease to be.
Yeah,
They will
after
always
that.
be.
It's a different kind of experience,
Yeah. And I absolutely know how this ends. Like the final moment of this movie is we see the title screen, Legend of Zelda, and a book closes on it. Because this is a story too.
This is the story in itself.
I'm into it. Maybe it's like a scroll, but no, I think it's a book.
Yeah, I think classic Disney would open up with Cinderella, open up with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. They would say like, "This is a story you're about to hear," and they got rid of that contrivance for a good period of time, and then brought it back for Robin Hood.
And you could do the book close. Maybe it is just black in the background behind the book, but it could also be a book, and you slowly, just very subtly, as you're pulling out, it's like you see that it's Zelda's study in Breath of the Wild, but that might keep us in Breath of the Wild. And I think what you're going for is we're trying to get out of the movie, right?
Well, not necessarily. If the audience knows it's the Breath of the Wild library, then it's just a story within the story, and it's all part of the Legend of Zelda, right?
Yeah.
It maintains the contrivance of these are all stories to be told.
Is there any way to update that a little bit? Like, because
the closing book
instead
convention.
of the book, like how can we make it be a video game?
Could it be conversation?
Oh,
You know what I mean? Like
wow.
instead of like somebody
I
just
see.
I don't want to pull like a Lego movie third act, but
Mhm.
like and then like somebody turns off it cuts to a
console.
human.
I'd say
and turns off the console.
yes.
Goes like, I freaking love these games.
You're
and then like
you're on
kind of
something
walks
there.
away. Because it's it's not a book though, you know, and
Yes,
it's fine if
you're
it's
correct.
a fairy tale, and then it's like, and that's a fair, but these are video games.
In the once the company logo and everything, the credits have rolled, it is the final screen. You're right. It can be a book closing, but then 8-bit it or digitize it so that it's the power being shut off and it's a game being turned off,
Yeah.
right? It doesn't have to turn into full cartridge out of the system and whatnot, but having it end with even subtly a game being turned off, you've absolutely put it into that realm.
Or even just to take it a tad bit further, because I think it's fine stopping there, but like then he has the game and he like lends it to his friend because like it's about the journey continuing.
We
you
are
know?
introducing new characters by doing this, but I see where you're going with it.
I mean, and we can end it with just like, I freaking love these games, or you know, just
Or maybe it
but,
is
like,
just the cartridge. Maybe it's an old Nintendo. Power off, door up. A little hand just takes the cartridge off and sets it next to it, and that's all we need. You know, maybe it's just that. I don't know.
sure.
I wouldn't want a voice to it because I wouldn't want to make it a gender or a race or anything like that, but some sort of identification that it's a game being turned off.
Yeah.
I think you're right at that.
I'm a little worried that we're going too meta with that beat, but for this conversation,
so tiny.
let's
It
have
would
it in
literally be the company logo
Yeah.
kind of situation here. That it wouldn't
Or-
be
because it's the
and that's just our
story,
after
not
credits.
because
Yeah.
we're talking about the stories, not the medium.
Right.
Though I agree. Like even the book, I was a little nervous about. Like I was kind of like, oh, we're because here's another. Let me pitch this.
Mhm.
Let me pitch this. Even though I love the nostalgia of the cartridge and all that, what if because the pretext, the predication on this demand was that Breath of the Wild is the universe that is reality.
Yes. Actually, let's return to the demand as we wrap up here. So
Okay.
So please continue.
I'll pull it up here, but as I was saying,
Have we met the demand?
human Earth is not a reality in this film.
Mm-hmm. Breath of the Wild is the
Hyrule,
reality.
Breath of the Wild, Hyrule is our reality.
I think you can get a tiny little nod that this is a video game without pulling a full scene out of it. If
Okay.
it's literally just some sort of like digitized power down.
Okay.
In the final instant of this. But continue, Dave.
I don't know exactly what I'm about to say, but I think you could do it with character. You could have your final shot be characters. If it is a book or a scroll or a something or the Sheikah Slate or something, it's Zelda putting it on a book
Yes.
case,
Yes.
a shelf in her study, but then we show other characters in the towns in Hyrule in Breath of the Wild. They talk a little bit about what just happened in our film.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then Ganon was defeated because blah, 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 blah. And the little kid asks, and they go, well, actually, and they talk
I
about.
heard it went this way.
Yeah, right.
That's
like,
not how it happened.
Well, I mean, not a Rashomon, but we see the story continuing to be told because that is in universe for Breath of the Wild. You see where I'm going with this?
Yeah.
Okay.
That all the other games are stories told is in universe in Breath of the Wild.
Mhm.
Now we could do something clever. Oh, I just touched your knee and kind of like a very
I'm gonna
Says-
bruise.
like-
Oof, I am. Oof.
I was trying to get Dan's attention. I touched it kind of sensually. I apologize.
Hey, David, go on.
So, but we could do like the very first Legend of Zelda game when the credits roll.
Mhm.
There's a final thing where Link is holding the Triforce and he comes up or something that says the end.
Mhm.
Like maybe we could have our final shot do a frame of, or that famous shot where Link's looking over the cliff at the mountains. Maybe our final literal
Image.
shot
Final image. Yeah.
is the balancer of one of these images that are iconic in this human universe.
Yes.
So we can reference it that way. See where I'm going with that?
Yeah. Marvel's very good about taking some iconic imagery from the comics or cover art or whatnot and bringing it to life in some capacity. So having that final image be almost a replication of the first screen, the menu screen of The Legend of Zelda from the Nintendo.
Or Link writing Epona
Mhm.
at like nighttime, the beginning of Ocarina of Time.
Holy moly.
That
the
is-
credit sequence.
Yeah,
the credit
just-
sequence is all the iconic shots from the different games, but rendered in whatever reality this film is.
Yes. Yeah.
And the story is continuing to be told.
Well, look to the
sorry, yeah.
demand for me, and I want to see. I feel good about this. I feel like we've conceptualized a full tale to be told, a full adventure to be told.
I love that everything fits in canon. I love that
Mhm.
everything fits in our. Because see, like when you do a Mario Kart or you do a Smash Brothers or even a Hyrule Warriors,
Yeah, there's no reality.
you have to throw caution to the wind and go, well, this character's showing up because.
Yeah, the Solid Snake's fighting Donkey Kong.
I
Like,
think
it's
we
fine.
built a system here.
Yes.
A little bit of like magic story time, but it works. We're sticking to it.
Yeah, why not? Yeah.
Brian Jellerson on Twitter at SKO. Skull Kid 90. SKOLKID
nice.
90.
Skull Kid Studios.
Yep. Brian Jellerson from Skull Kid Studios said, in the spirit of multiverses, create a story that brings together other versions of Link from the Zelda timeline,
Didn't say all of them, so we did that.
but uses Breath of the Wild Link as the main protagonist.
Maintain that through Zelda.
Yep. Only because many theories suggest Breath of the Wild is a convergence point. And actually, there's a retweet here now by Ryan Kuhn at rambocoon.com with the meme of "Shut up and take my money." There was a reply
the
tweet.
Futurama Fry. There we go.
Yep.
Well, thank you for that demand, and David, thank you for selecting that as well.
Well, I knew you guys are good at multiverses.
Yeah.
So I felt like that was the one we needed to go with.
Yeah.
I
Was
liked
that fun for you, Dan?
I had a blast.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, let's wrap it up here as we get to the end here. I think that's going to do it for this episode. I'd love to know, did we meet the demand? I'd like to think we did, but hit us up if you agree or disagree, if you think we've missed something or whatever. Let's keep this conversation open. Keep this conversation going. And I'm going to give a little hint for next episode of Studio Demands It. For this very reason. The next episode of Studio Demands It's going to be our second to the last of the season, and we're going to discuss what is going to be the finale. And in doing so, we discuss a lot of the comments and tweets that came from the voting, from the episodes. And something that happened in that is because of one of your awesome comments, Jim and I blew up an idea from a previous episode. We were like, oh, we can do this. Sorry. And like, it helped us.
Meaning you pitched a demand.
Yeah.
You saw a comment later and
we blew it. It like totally blew open the doors. We were like, oh my God, now we want to write this one.
That's cool.
So please hit us up, hit David up if you want to talk to him, hit Dan up as well. But you can find us directly, this show, at studiodemandsit.com or on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram at Studio Demands It. And if you're not already, please subscribe to us on all your pod forums or podcatchers of your choice. And if you feel like giving us a little review, you can do it right in app. Really helps with the algorithm.
Yeah, I'll say it so you don't have to. The most impactful thing a listener can do is leave a 5-star review with a little bit of text on Apple Podcasts. It affects the algorithm so much.
Thank you for those who've gone out of the way to do that. I am so neurotic that a 4-star review is all I fix on. So just please make it 5 and I'll be okay. You can find me at TC's Big Head on Twitter and Instagram. You can also find Jim that way too. Thank you to 6'5 Media for everything that you do for us.
Guys, we're having fun.
Yeah. So, but let's throw it to you guys. David, where can people find you?
Personally, they can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Raptor Paint. And I also, host Another Zelda podcast with a bunch of people. Both of you have also been on that show as guests and cast members and the like. And you can find that show at Another Zelda Pod on Twitter and Instagram.
Great.
And I'll just leave it at that.
Great. Dan, pitch away, man.
Pitch away. Well, you can find me on Facebook. We are still in the process of setting up the Twitter.
We literally are like building your Twitter later today.
Yeah. So like,
can I recommend?
I'll let you know when I know.
If I can recommend a Twitter handle. Tubak Waxon is totally available right now.
Oh, this is an in joke. That was Jim's old Twitter handle.
I was like, oh, sure. Yeah, that's yeah.
Okay, good.
Real relevant to my life. I get it. Yeah. Okay.
That was for the Studio Demands It listeners. You're welcome.
At worst, the Twitter will probably be Fan Fiction Pod because that's usually you got to put pod on Twitter just to get because a lot of I don't know.
Yeah, but I interrupted. Continue.
No, you're great. You're great. So like I said, Fan Fiction Pod. Maybe we're still kind of figuring out the details. But my episodes should be out. Please just jump in, click one, whatever franchise you like, and listen to me and my buddy Matt, kind of riff on it. See what we're going to do.
Awesome.
You guys did Zelda as your first episode.
Yes.
That was a fun one to listen to.
Excellent.
Yep.
And what are some other, for you so far, what have been some highlights
So we got 7 episodes. We got God of War one. We got a Borderlands, Batman, Diablo, Mass Effect. We're just going down the entire list of things that me and Matt love talking about. Yep.
I expect a Mega Man sooner or later.
Oh, yes. There will be a that's Matt's like heart. So trust me, though, that's the 2-hour-long episode.
When I had a Zoom meeting with them a few months ago, Matt took the meeting with a Mega Man blaster on his arm on the Zoom call.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that had nothing to do with the meeting. He just walks around with it.
Oh wow, that's
it's really really hard for him in life because he doesn't take it off. You should try and see him eat meals. He's got it down to a science to a certain degree.
Just holding it over.
Oh, he's giving that up. Why do you think this is a podcast so you don't have to smell him?
That makes total sense.
Mm-hmm.
Well, thank you guys for being on, for coming on and hanging out with me.
It was a little bit of a risk, TC. This was fun though.
This was great. The whole idea about this show has always been the 0 to no preparation, so that it really can be just let's just see what happens. Let's just see where the ideas come from. And this was a great session.
And Dan, those first 10 minutes are a little scary. Aren't they?
Yeah.
But like it's so funny because like it's just watching the ball start rolling.
That's what it is.
You know, it's like how do we get that first couple turns?
Gotta tip that first domino.
And then
Boom,
like
boom, boom, boom,
after
boom.
an hour, it's great.
Well, that does it for this episode. We will be back again to take on another demand and challenge to improve the world of cinema and storytelling. I'm TC.
I'm Dan.
And I'm David.
And that's it. That's how we end the show. So as we like to say here at 6'5", as often as possible. Okay, bye.
Oh, look at that.